Hey, what's up, everyone? We're really excited to be kicking off a new series today called Rhythms. We're so excited for great conversation to take place in our small groups. And beyond that, we're so thrilled. This is a series about more than talking about ideas, but we're going to talk through some of these really cool practices that we want to walk out together in our small groups. So we're so looking forward to going on this journey with you through this series. If you lived in Israel at the start of the first century, odds are you would have heard about Jesus of Nazareth, an itinerant preacher, a rabbi traveling from town to town with a message that was equally refreshing and challenging, a message about repentance and love and the arrival of God's kingdom. When we often think of Jesus, there's some things that probably come to mind. If you think about Jesus right now, what are some characteristics that describe him? I think oftentimes we'll think about him as well. He's God in human flesh. He's divine. We might think of him as king. He's king of the universe. Or maybe we think of him as a historical figure who changed the course of history forever. And all of these things are true, definitely, for sure. But what I find so interesting is that the package he showed up in the first century in Israel, he showed up in as a traveling rabbi. And a rabbi is simply a Hebrew word for teacher. And wherever he went and he taught, thousands would gather to hear him speak or see him do miracles. But among those followers, the people who showed up to see what Jesus was going to do, among those thousands, there were people who wanted to take following Jesus to the next level. In our church context, hopefully every one of us wants to be a follower of Jesus. Hopefully that's what you want with your life. It's what I want with my life. But it's true that just identifying as a Christian doesn't necessarily mean I follow Jesus. What does being a Christian in our 21st century American context really mean? Think about that question for a moment. What does it mean to be a Christian in our day and age? I think it means a couple things that would naturally come to mind to most people. It means I go to church at least semi-regularly. Maybe it's not Sunday mornings, but hey, I'm kind of plugged into a church program, or I'm kind of a part of it on a regular basis, or maybe I stream, right? Or maybe you'd say, well, it's me sharing a general set of orthodox beliefs, like I believe in a God, I believe in a creator of the universe, right? And we kind of go, okay, well, that's it. Then I'm a Christian, right? But the call of the hour, I think, in our culture is not just to be another cultural Christian or a churchgoer, but to be a true follower of the way of Jesus. Just like every other teacher of his day, Jesus had students. He had crowds that would follow him and fans that wanted to see what was going on. But amongst those crowds were his true followers. The Hebrew word for these people was Talmidim, his students. More than people who just came to class. These weren't like students like, hey, take notes and all right, we'll see you next week, I guess. These were people who were more like apprentices that were following Jesus, actually spending time with him and learning from how he lived his life. Among the thousands that came for the show, only a few hundred decided, I'm truly going to follow this teacher. And what it meant to be a Talmidim or a disciple in this century was this. It meant ordering your life around your rabbi or your teacher so that you're an apprentice of their way. More than just somebody who sits in a class, like I'm actually trying to just watch how you do things and learn from you. It meant spending every day with your teacher, not just absorbing their teaching, but embracing their life rhythms in the hope that you one day step into their shoes. And in our 21st century context, just like in the first century, Jesus is not just looking for converts to the formalized religion of Christianity. He's looking for apprentices of his way of life. He's looking for people who will make it their life goal to spend time with him, become like him, and do the things he did. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 11, he offers us an invitation. He says this, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is comfortable and my burden is light." You see, to understand the yoke a little bit more, because I know most of us aren't first century farmers, a yoke was a piece of equipment that was often used to tie two animals together. for the purpose of usually plowing a field of some kind. So you might have two oxen, and it'd be tying the two of them together. And these oxen or these animals would usually be of different strength levels. You might have a strong animal and a weak animal, and you tie them together to plow a field together so that the strong animal carries most of the weight and does most of the work, but the weaker animal is learning and developing and growing stronger all the while. So what's happening here when Jesus is offering us his yoke is he's offering us a way of life to take on ourselves, and he's going to carry most of the weight. But as we walk with him and as we work with him, we become stronger, and slowly in time we become to look a little bit more like him. Dallas Willard says this about the easy yoke. He says, "In this truth lies the secret of the easy yoke. The secret involves living as he, Jesus, lived in the entirety of his life, adopting his overall lifestyle. Our mistake is to think that following Jesus consists in loving our enemies, going the second mile, turning the other cheek, suffering patiently and hopefully, while living the rest of our lives just as everyone around us does. It is a strategy bound to fail." A simple thing for us to recognize is this, and we can probably each identify with this struggle, but we need to know and remember that if we want to experience the life of Jesus, we have to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. I want to read Matthew 11 again, and I love how Eugene Peterson in his Thought for Thought translation puts it, how he says it in the Message. I think it's just beautiful. He says this, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." Jesus is not trying to add weight to our shoulders by giving us more things we're supposed to do. He's releasing weight off of us by inviting us to healthy practices and perspectives, ways of life that help make us physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually healthy. So in this discussion series, as we respond as Talmidim, disciples and apprentices of Jesus, not just fans, we're going to talk through just some of these core spiritual disciplines that Jesus modeled for us. We're going to talk through prayer and fasting and study and meditation and rest. And beyond just talking about these disciplines, we want to practice them together. And as we dive into that and we begin this journey in our small groups, I think there's an important question every one of us asks, and it's this: what will it take from us then to take on the yoke of Jesus? How might we need to reorder our ways of life? And I have two things that are going to help us as we begin. And the first is this: unhurry your life. A lifestyle where we take on the rhythms of Jesus means we will have to create space and slow down a little bit. Dallas Willard again says this, and it's so powerful. He says, "Hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life." When did Jesus seem to be hurrying anywhere or rushing to do anything? Not to say he didn't live his life with conviction or determination or on mission, but the guy was known for taking longer than some of his followers cared to take at a certain place, and talking with people longer than some of them cared to talk. He was known for taking naps in strange places. He seemed to have an easygoing pace, unworried and unhurried. He showed us the life of spiritual health was an unhurried existence. Taking on the lifestyle of Jesus will mean slowing down and unhurrying your life. That's the first thing. And the second thing is simple as well. Create space to practice. We have to create space to practice the rhythms of Jesus, because guess what? We're not rock stars at these disciplines when we're first starting out. It takes time and it takes practice. Creating a structure helps us stick with it, but we got to give ourselves some grace, but be intentional about creating space for practice. And that's what we want to do in our small groups. Not just to have some great conversations on the idea of these practices over the next couple months, but to put them into practice together. We're going to build in a few disciplines to practice on a daily basis together just to get started. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in group discussion. But let's dive in together, can we? It'll take some work of unhurrying our lives. It'll take creating some space to practice, but we want to build a structure of life that makes us become more like our teacher, Jesus. Jesus is inviting us to be his disciples, his apprentices. And an invitation to be his disciple is an invitation to take on his lifestyle, his disciplines. It's an invitation to take on his rhythms.